Okay. It's Wise right here on another edition, Wizetics Mental Wealth. It's Freestyle Friday. I'm going to jump right into it. If you're working hard, but nothing changing, stop. Let me say it again. If you're working hard, but nothing's changing, stop. This might be the most important thing you hear today. Most people think they need more motivation. They don't. They're already trying. They already care. The real issue is this. Effort doesn't move systems. Systems move outcomes. And when you don't understand the system you're in, you can work hard for years and still end up in the same what? Place. That's why I do what I do. I help individuals and institutions understand the road they're on before they blame the traffic. Because once you see the road clearly, the frustration makes sense. And the next move becomes obvious. Sometimes people just need clarity. That's advisable. Sometimes the setup itself needs to change. The strategy, the structure, the process, that's consulting. And only after the direction is right does coaching matter, because execution only works when you're headed the right way. If you're tired, stuck, or questioning yourself, it's probably not a discipline problem. You might just be pushing in the wrong system. Clarity comes before effort. Alignment comes before results. See, I help individuals and institutions understand the road they're on before they blame the traffic, because most people aren't failing. They're just working inside systems they don't understand. Basically, on this level is a navigation issue and not just a motivation thing. Before I go, I'm going to make a quick example. Stay and catch this right here, because this is very important. This part right here is very important. Okay, so think about this, right? If you are on the road that's the northern direction, meaning if you're on I-95 north or I-85 north or I-77 north, that's the road that you're on. You intending to actually go south, but you're on the road that goes north. No matter how much you want to go south, if you continue on the northern highway, if you continue on the direction that goes north, you will not reach the destination that you intended to reach. That's the analogy when it comes to systems. The road dictates the traffic. The road dictates the traffic. And it's Freestyle Friday. So this is unscripted. And so when I say the road dictates the traffic, what I'm saying is that the people that are traveling on a specific road have no choice but to go in the direction that the road is set in. You have no choice. The traffic is flowing this way. Now, of course, you always have a choice, meaning that you could do something such as try to turn around and go the opposite direction into ongoing traffic, which causes a disaster. So this is basically what I'm saying when it comes to systems. People can become a part of a system that already exists and go into that system with good intention and think that, well, okay, I'm inside this system right here. I'm going to be able to like make a major change in that system. And never mind my dress right here. I'm at home relaxing. The weather is crazy out there. You got crazy weather going on. So I'm just here doing what I do. Freestyle Friday is what we got going on. Freestyle Friday. But as I was saying, right? the system. People have good intentions sometimes. A lot of people, they want to become police officers sometimes, you know, coming from our communities. They want to become bankers, they want to become politicians, and they step into these roles, which are basically structured systems. And when they go inside that role, they might have good intention on wanting to make a difference, for their community. Yet, because the system is structured a certain way, the traffic is going this way. You want to go south, but the road is going north. No matter how hard you want to go south, you're not going to end up going south on this road. Meaning that inside this system, the way this system is structured, your intentions are not going to be fulfilled. What you intending to do, what you are intending to do, is not going to happen. So this is why I do what I do as a systems advisor. And this is not like a marketing thing. I'm not pushing out an ad for anybody. I'm just here to deliver an observation. It's just basically an observation. I'm working on some new material. I got a book coming out. I'm trying to pull up a picture of the cover. Just the cover is right here. It's called Black Aesthetics. So I've been working on it. I worked on this book for some years. I'm just basically getting to a point where I'm finishing it all the way up. I don't know if you can see Black Aesthetics. So it's Black Aesthetics, Strategy, Power, and Structural Economics. And so everything that I'm saying now is basically within this book, is outlined within the book in a way that gives you observation. It's observation. And it doesn't matter about how you feel. So it's an observation not based on how you feel. It's an observation that's based off of raw facts. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of the content of the book. I'm looking for, let me read something from the book for y'all. Okay. Black Aesthetics, Strategy, Power, and Structural Economics. Okay, let's get into something. Okay, here we go. Black Aesthetics, Strategy, Power, and Structural Economics examines how perception precedes policy and how power is translated into durable economic and institutional outcomes, drawing from historical analysis, systems theory, political economy, and organizational design. This work traces how authority is established, maintained, and denied through structure rather than intent. That's the part I was just talking about, the intent. You can be intending to go one way, but because the lane that you are in, the road that you're on, the system that you find yourself within is not structured to go in the direction that you intend to go in. So this book positions Black aesthetics as a governing framework that shapes economic behavior, institutional access, and collective outcomes, arguing that survival-oriented responses might give way to intentional structural design, written as a reference text for scholars, strategists, and decision makers. This work advances a disciplined analysis of power and economics while offering a systems-based foundation for long-term collective advancement. So this is an author's note I got right here. This body of work is the result of years of academic study, institutional observation, and lived experience. As the first in my immediate family to obtain both a bachelor's and a master's degree, my scholarship is informed by formal training in psychology, specifically consumer behavior and business administration, alongside a lifelong engagement with cultural study and systems thinking. I stand consciously in the scholarly lineage of thinkers such as Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Dr. Ben Joannan, Amos Wilson, and Dr. Claude Anderson, whose intellectual rigor was never diminished by the discomfort their work produced, meaning that they spoke about some real polarizing subject matters, basically race. They spoke about the race issue in relationship to the Black American experience on the level of political economics or socioeconomics, all the different areas, the different layers and currents of society. They address those things. And mainly Dr. Anderson, he addressed it from an economical standpoint. Amos Wilson, he addressed it from a sociological standpoint. Also, with the economic backdrop in there as well. And of course, W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, all of those great scholars, they laid out certain information. They laid out certain pillars that really are what I call stepping stones. There are certain pieces like blocks on a pyramid. They stack up to where we are now, which is what Black aesthetics comes into be, that capstone, for the lack of a better way to say it. So I'm going with this right here. In parallel, my foundation and knowledge itself, rooted in cultural traditions, including the 5% Nation, has shaped how I examine identity, power, and continuity beyond Western academic boundaries. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, throughout my academic career, I noticed that the references used within the curriculum are basically Eurocentric. And that's understandable. Why? Because we live in America, which is rooted in Eurocentric culture, right? As the foundational premise. So it's always a reference to Plato, Aristotle, C.G. Chung, Karl Marx, Skinner, all these different people, right? Coming from different aspects. And I'm speaking about psychology and business administration. So I don't really know what the curriculum is like if you go study to be an engineer, or if you go to study to be any other career orientated aspect of knowledge, of learning, right? But I do know within the field of psychology and in the field of business administration, the references are rooted in Eurocentric individuals bringing their theory. So, Dr. Anderson, Amos Wilson, Dr. Ben, Du Bois, none of them have been referenced in any of my curriculum. Not one time. And I actually wrote about this myself doing some of my papers. I wrote about that because I referenced them myself, because you can go do your own research. Of course, they give us our university books that we study out of, but you can go do your own research and utilize that research to write your papers. So this is why Black aesthetics exists, why I actually wrote Black aesthetics. I wanted to put a scholarly tone on a lot of the things that I already have been providing to the people in my work, which is a ladder of work, from advisory, consulting, and coaching. And I holistically connected these things together to create a certain type of position that will allow me to enter the rooms where the systems are being designed, where the decisions are being made. So and then intervene prior to the decisions being made to produce a way of looking at things. So I call it see in systems, seeing in systems. So I'm showing you how to see within systems. So this is something that the people at the top that's sitting in these rooms, where they are structuring policies, where they are structuring systems. So now I come with a certain type of information, which is basically observation. So I'm giving you an observation. So you may intend for the program, or what you got going on, to reach this place. And I'm speaking specifically towards things like CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, where the banking system is set up a certain way to provide access to low, moderate income community individuals. And so this is where I intervene on that level and connect the dots or close the gap to where it's people on the front line that these programs supposed to reach. A lot of times they're not, it's not reaching them because of the on ramp, meaning that it's too complex, right? So a lot of these things are so complex that if you didn't learn this stuff inside your household and then you just went out to school, or you just learned a trade, or you just took on to be an entrepreneur just because you got a skill set you're real good at and you can monetize it, you now got good intention. Your intention is very well good, but because you don't understand the system, you don't understand the road that you're on, because the road dictates the traffic. So some people are blaming the traffic. It's not the traffic's fault. It's the road that you're on is just meant to go this way, regardless of how you feel about it. You don't like it, but you need to know, okay, in order to get to where you want to get to, this is the way you need to go. You need to go this way. You need to position yourself in this way. You need to approach this way. And in order to be able to approach it in a manner that allows you to be successful, is that you got to be aware of what it is that you are dealing with, because there's certain things that you might not know about that really affects you, that really is something that you need. So this is what we provide as we continue to go along this Wizetics Mental Wealth Freestyle Friday. So what you will continue to get is real observations, real judgments. So let me go back to this part right here about what we got going on with this book right here, Black Aesthetics. So in parallel, my foundation and knowledge of self, rooted in cultural traditions, including the 5% Nation, has shaped how I examine identity, power, and continuity beyond Western academic boundaries. This book does not seek to persuade through rhetoric or protest. It seeks to examine design, consequence, and responsibility with precision, restraint, and historical honesty. Disruption precedes diagnosis, and diagnosis must precede design. Anything else produces performance rather than progress. So this book is designed to disrupt first, then we diagnose second, and then we get into architecture, meaning that we now will be designing the systems that are necessary for us to achieve the goals that fundamentally have been accessible to everybody else. And because the access is there, it seems like there is really nothing wrong on the surface level, meaning that you can have people saying that really people start to blame themselves instead of really understanding what's going on from a system standpoint. So it said this framework is aligned with Shahid's Wizetics principle of seeing in systems. Rather than isolating events, identities, or outcomes, the work approaches Black aesthetics as an interconnected system of perception, design, and consequence operating across time. To see in systems is to recognize that culture, policy, economics, and psychology do not function independently, but reinforce one another through feedback loops that produce continuity. By applying systems thinking to historical narratives, institutional behavior, and reinvestment structures, this book treats aesthetics not as symbolism alone, but as a governing logic, one that determines what is built, what is preserved, and what is allowed to decay. In this sense, seeing clearly is not an act of awareness, but a prerequisite for responsible design. And so let me go to this part right here. Part 1 is called The Unsettling, subtitled The Disruption, right? Some of the sections in there: sacred text, secular authority, and social economic order. secrecy, fraternity, and institutional continuity, unresolved histories, and the cost of suppressed inquiry. Okay, we got part 2, the diagnosis, which we see the problem, subtitle the problem, economic circulation and ownership, life business infrastructure failures. Go to part 3, the architecture, subtitled the solution, the circulation of the black dollar and economic continuity, institutional ownership and stability design. Then we go to part 4, which is it closes up the sections, and this is called the application. Responsibility in designed systems. That's a subtype. Introduction, why application requires translation. So I'm stop right there. Translation. The translation part is different languages that exist in these different classes of society, in these different areas of institution, from a political level, economic level, social level, cultural level. It's all different languages. So even if you say you step into the world of medicine, there's a specific language in the world of medicine. If you step into the world of law, litigation, there's a specific language for litigation. And basically, even when you're looking at litigation, they got their own dictionary, the Black's Law Dictionary, right? And so as I'm giving you this is why I do Freestyle Friday. So I can give you a piece of my mind unscripted, because a lot of times you got a lot of people, they're using Chat GPT to provide information. And a lot of times this information is not genuinely coming from the mind of the individual. They are basically lip professing. So it begins to sound all the same. And then now the people receiving things under the pretense that this is some genuine information from an authoritative individual, from an authoritative place, meaning that the individual actually has the real knowledge and application, which is the wisdom. And the best part is the understanding of what they are talking about, and not just talking about what have they actually experienced in regards to the information that they are providing. And this is where we are talking about people who are like gatekeepers on certain aspects of things, unconsciously or consciously. Regardless of which way it is, the result is still the same. The outcomes remain the same regardless of what the intent was. Why? Because the road dictates the traffic. Now, when I look at translation, this is where I come in with being able to provide the means of facilitating communication. Perfect example right here, right? So let's say you have a professor that specialized in the field of economics at the college, right? At my university, at the business school that I go to, and which I'll be finishing in April. You know, my professors, they have their own businesses. Like they consultants for political issues, they consultants for economic issues, but it's still related to economics because they are consultants from business administration. Some of them got their doctors of DBAs or MBAs, or both, right? Professors. So they provide what they provide. But then you got some people on the front line, up and coming entrepreneurs, right? They don't understand Community Reinvestment Act. Like, what is that? Some people never heard of it, the Community Reinvestment Act. So this is where I come in with the translation. So what has been happening, because the Community Reinvestment Act have been around since 1977. And so all this time, this has been around, but who have been in the position to administer the means of communicating and translating the issues at hand? Meaning that, okay, we got access over here for credit, for mortgages, for homes, education, financial literacy education programs to help people get prepared to be able to handle the responsibilities of home ownership, or being able to handle the responsibilities of entrepreneurship. So all these things exist within the banks under CRA. However, if you have someone that's in the position or in an authoritative position or program manager who does not understand the language of the individuals who these programs is designed to serve, then the intent is one thing, but the way the road is structured is another thing. The way the system is structured, it doesn't allow this person to be able to reach this person down here. And the way this person was raised within their environment, another system, it doesn't allow them to be able to on ramp, meaning that to get on board, to enter into the entrance of the pipeline to get access to the banking products. Yeah. So this is beyond people on YouTube talking about, oh, I can show you how to get credit, or I can show you how to get a loan from the bank to start your business, or I can show you how to do this. It's deeper than that. It's much deeper than that, because we are talking about legacy leadership, generational wealth. How do you really establish generational wealth? You got people talking about, I can show you how to form a trust. I can show you how to do this. All these things are like, they call them hacks, right? I can show you this hack, like this quick fix for something. But the system that you are dealing with plays the long game. They play the long game. See, you jumping in for a little piece right here, bam, like the lottery. I hit the lottery. I got a few, 1,000, 100,000. I got credit limit here. I got my business like this. But have you actually positioned yourself for legacy, for generational wealth building from an institutional standpoint? Not just you got a business, meaning that when you are no longer physically here, how will this continue to go? That is called continuity. Not just longevity, we're talking about continuity, meaning that the system that you have put together and designed continues to on and on, whether you physically are here or not. That's what I'm talking about. And this conversation is not a conversation that goes viral like that. It's not a conversation where, you hear this and everybody like, yo, this is a trending topic. It's a very quiet topic. It's very quiet. And the fact that I'm even telling you, it's like, yo, that's why I'm saying I'm the translator. I translate these things. I take the complex system and break it down in layman's terms for you to understand. And then I take the layman term and upgrade it so that the people in the positions of power and authority can comprehend. I'm going to end with this. Of course, I studied business from MBA, right? That's the title shit. So one thing I noticed about it, because I took psychology with a concentration in consumer behavior first. And within that, it shows you how to examine things. The curriculum is giving you the study on how to take data, how to collect data, how to do research, how to analyze situations, how to analyze people, places, and things, and how to develop systems that actually allow you to collect the data, to show you how to process it and how to apply it, right? So with that being the case, one of the things that when it goes into the business realm, because in my consumer behavior psychology classes, it also was parallel with industrial organization. And with industrial organization, it's basically from a human relation standpoint, but also it's speaking about international relationships, like companies outside of the United States, international. I think I'm back. So I'm back right here. Yo, so what I was saying is, I don't know how much y'all missed. I don't know how much you continue to hear or not, right? But let me get back to it and I'm gonna close out. So in my classes, right, I'm gonna go back to the part because I don't know how much you heard. Okay, I studied psychology with a concentration in consumer behavior. It was parallel to industrial organization. Within this part, it deals with human relations, right? How to work in the human relations department, and it also dealt with international uh, uh, relations. So in my master's with business administration, it talks about the same thing with multinational corps. You know, you got companies who do business overseas. They may have so okay, I'm back again. We have a connection problems, right? So let me get this part out real fast. Culture of the people that you were seeking to do business with. This is what they teach you in consumer behavior psychology, industrial organization psychology, and then business administration, right? However, here go observation, the Wizetics way. This is the Wizetics way. You haven't heard this nowhere else. You heard this right here. This is why I do what I do, because of my insight on these specific things from years and years of study. So check this out, because you will be able to use it to be successful in your life and business and being able to grow yourself into legacy leadership. Okay, here's that part. Here's the part right here, right? They teach you how to understand the culture of people outside of the United States of America in order for you to be able to be successful in doing business with them. And sometimes companies put offices in these other countries. Sometimes, you know, businesses in the United States have company offices in China, in, you know, Japan, in Venezuela, right? Okay, so they train the people to understand the dynamics of the culture. Why do they train the people? To understand the dynamics of the culture. This is what it is, right? Because one thing in one culture could be offensive in another culture. You could do one thing right, and the way you do it in your culture could be offensive to someone else in their culture. And you naively do it with good intention. Your intent is to be cordial, to be friendly, to be hospitable, right? Showing hospitality. Where like the host country or whatever, or you know, you're going out foreign. They teach people how to be culturally responsive or culturally sensitive or have emotional intelligence towards cultures outside of the United States. But there is no training for people to deal with the different cultural aspects between Black people and white people. There's a cultural difference between white people and Black people. It's undeniable. We have similar things, but there are also some things that are very different. And a lot of times, the intent does not determine the outcome. That's determining the outcome. So I'm calming it down a little bit as I express this. So, because why? The people who are in the positions of authority, they quiet. Their movement is real quiet. The people that these systems, in regards to CRA, was designed to reach, they're loud. They loud. So it's a big cultural difference. So you see people say, oh, black people want to dress like they rich. White people, they don't dress like they are rich. You know, you can see a white person and they could be a billionaire and you wouldn't know it just because of how they are dressed. That's a cultural thing. It's not necessarily an economic thing per se, meaning that just because you're rich and wealthy don't mean that, oh, you don't buy expensive clothes or like designer clothes. Or because think about it, who was the Rolex designed to serve a solution for? It definitely wasn't the people that is in low, moderate income communities. It wasn't made from the background that I come from. It was made for rich, wealthy individuals. That's what a Rolex was made for. The Rolls Royce wasn't made for individuals in the projects that come from that economic demographic, right? So people will say, well, you know, black people always want to try to dress like they're rich or act like they're rich by buying things that's expensive, but not really be rich. But real rich and wealthy people don't do that. That's not true. That's not true. This is why I have to translate. This is why I have to come to do what I do, because there are a lot of like proverbs. So lack of a better way to say it, you got a lot of sayings that people say, and at one point in time they were very sophisticated things to like. Oh, that sounds sophisticated. That sounds about right, but it is right. But however, it's not right and exact. It's not right and exact. It's only right, but not exact, which means there are a lot of rich people and wealthy people that wear designer clothes because Gucci made its wealth off of wealthy people. They did not build themselves up into a wealthy legacy by catering to low, moderate income customers. Think about that. So what happens is certain black people come into some money on progress ladder of growth and development on their economics, and they want to buy these specific things. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it if you have the right understanding of what you are dealing with and how you position yourself with your plan of action and your mission and vision for your brand, for your legacy, for your company, for you as an individual. That's how that goes. And I'm going to end with that right there. Wizetics, Mental Wealth, Freestyle Friday. Again, I'm here like this, like that. You know, it's the day. They got a winter storm coming. It's here in some places. So I'm just here giving you what I'm giving you. And be on the lookout for Black Aesthetics coming out. It's probably going to come out probably in the spring or the summertime. That's what it is. I'm gonna be putting up. I spoke at this event. I'm really not gonna say what the event was right now. To deliver what I just delivered to you, because I'm in these spaces to be the translator, to be the one that's the bridge, and a lot of times it deals with a lot of things that you have to be able to navigate through and be swift and changeable, but yet always remain. You gotta be swift and changeable, always remaining. And with that, peace, Wizetics.